Thanks, Ronnie, and welcome everyone to Bell Live Showcase with the 505. My name is Matt Jane, and I'm the marketing manager here on the 505 program. I'm here in Fort Worth, Texas, in the Bell Training Academy hangar with not one, but two beautiful Bell 505s. Today I want to talk about what I like to call the 505, the multi-tool of the sky. There's almost 300 505s now in the world performing a wide variety of missions, from taking adventurers, hikers, and bikers to their favorite spot out in the wilderness, long-lining equipment up into the mountains of Montana, protecting cities on the west coast of the United States, or doing firefighting and fire support in China and Brazil. There's not many missions the 505 isn't equipped to help support. We're going to talk today about the large open cabin, the powerful Safran Arias 2R engine, and the integrated Garmin G1000H NXI avionics, and how those support the 505 being a fantastic multi-mission aircraft. But don't just take my word for it. Let's hear from Mark Taylor, who's up at Rocky Mountain Rotors in Montana, performing a wide variety of missions with his Bell 505 every single day.
Call the helicopter the ultimate ATV. You get into something like the Bell 505s down here, a very stable platform that has quite a bit of power. We're very impressed with the power, and that helicopter, we're cruising at high altitudes in the 100-knot range still. 505 is very diversified. Search and rescue has turned into be a big one for this helicopter. We get a great visibility out of the machine when we're doing low-level searches, whether it be a river search or a mountain search. The 505 has done multiple missions in this area right here. I mentioned search and rescue as a major mission for our 505s, and then real estate. We do a lot of real estate, surveying of ranches, taking new owners up or taking a prospective owner up with a realtor. So we use this new Jet Ranger for training. As far as I'm concerned, this is the best initial turbine trainer on the market. Other things that we would do would be putting it on our 135 charter certificate. We've got a hook on ours, so it's been a great little utility ship. Somebody calls 505 and lift quite a little bit. We've done multiple high altitude lifts with this machine. We've got wild horses that we help take care of on ranches up here that are come up out of the BLM from Nevada. Horses were essentially overgrazing that area, and the government is taking care of them by contracting out to certain ranches where there's enormous amounts of feed for these horses. Next would be the cattle industry. We have a lot of mountainous terrain around here with U.S. Forest Service, and ranchers will contract or lease ground. So we'll go up and help locate those cattle, or even haze those cattle and drift them off the right side of the mountain so that the cowboys down below can gather them easier in the fall. There isn't any place you can't go with a machine like this. The Bell 505, if I was starting out again and I had to start from scratch with one helicopter, this would be a perfect entry-level helicopter for a new operator. I'm Mark Taylor. I'm the founder of Rocky Mountain Rotors, and I fly Bell.
Pretty amazing what one operator is able to do with his Bell 505. That sheer number of missions that he was able to accomplish with this one aircraft helps drive business and revenue growth. Now, before we get into talking about this super versatile cabin, I want to talk a little bit about the size of the aircraft. You can see this full-length shot behind me of the 505, showing off all 34 feet of length of the aircraft. And at over 1,000 pounds heavier than the nearest competition, the Bell 505 is really in a class of its own. All that extra weight and that extra length helps the stability of the aircraft with up to 25 knots of crosswind capability, and the capability to handle a little bit more bounce flying through mountains or with a little bit of chop. That's going to keep tourism operators more comfortable. Charter operators will have their passengers be more comfortable, or even private pilots that are flying around. You're going to feel a little bit more comfortable flying this aircraft than you would in anything smaller. Now, with that being said, let's start talking about the versatility of the 505 from the inside out. So what I'm going to do here is come over to these large double doors on the left side of the aircraft. What this will do is this is going to open up a 55-inch wide opening in the side of the 505. Perfect for ingress of passengers, loading cargo, whatever you need to get in the aircraft. You now have a large opening on the side here. If you were to take out these back three seats and this front left seat, you would have 99 cubic feet of space available to transport whatever you need. Just in the back of the aircraft, if you pull out those seats, you have 61 cubic feet and 22 square feet on the floor, as well as integrated tie downs that are standing on the aircraft to tie down whatever you're transporting on that day. I want to talk a little bit about the different options as far as interiors on the aircraft. The standard aircraft comes with rag and tube seats. These are fold-up seats perfect for utility operators. What's great about them is you can just take the bottom pan, fold it up, Velcro it back, and you've just gone from a personnel transport mission to a cargo transport mission without any tools. The next tier is what we're showing here. This is our premium leather interior. It's available in 3 different colors, from tan to black to the gray you see shown on this aircraft. Now, while the seat bottom doesn't fold up like on the utility seats, these seats are very easily removed, and we're going to show that to you here in a minute. What's great about these seats is they do add a little bit of bolster, a little bit of extra cushion, and they're great for if you're focusing on that personnel transport mission. With these seats, you can also add a carpeting option and a headliner option from our aeronautical accessories brand. That headliner and the carpet are available to match the seat color, or with the headliner, you can even do a hydrographics option to add a little bit more flair. Now, the last option is our VIP option available from Mech Air. This is the magnificent interior. What this gives you is premium leather, Italian leather seats, premium carpeting, a nice headliner, as well as extra door paneling that color matches the whole interior there. This is also going to provide you with USB charging ports and extra storage pockets available in the back for whatever you want to store in there. No matter what interior you get, you're going to get 4-point seat belts and energy attenuating seats. Now, I could talk about the interior all day, and I can talk about the size and the leg room and the headroom, but why don't I bring in a couple models who are a little bit taller than me to show you just how big the cabin is when people are sitting in there. And by models, I mean 2 of my 6'4" coworkers that I found roaming around the facility just now that happen to be the perfect specimens for this aircraft. Brandon, Lane, if you wouldn't mind hopping in there, put on your seat belts and your headsets as well, and let's show everybody just how spacious this cabin is. The first thing I want you to notice while they're getting settled in is just how much higher the rear seats of the Bell 505 are. This gives the back passengers ample panoramic views both at the front of the aircraft as well as the side. Now, I mentioned the front of the aircraft because in older aircraft you might have a bar across the middle, you may even be in a broom closet, and so traditionally the only view you're going to have out of the aircraft is out of the sides. And especially if you're doing a certain tourism route where you're only looking at the left side of the aircraft, one of those passengers probably has a pretty poor view. On the Bell 505 though, you have ample over 180-degree views from every seat in the back. The other thing in the back is that every passenger now has their own 18.5-inch wide seat. There's no more kiddie seat, there's no more small seat in the middle to squish one small person in there, and you got to kind of design your tours in order to accommodate that seat. Now everybody has ample room in there. Now that they're all settled in, you can see just how much knee room Lane has in the back. His knees are not contacting that front seat. He can move his head around just fine. He can look to both sides. He can even look up if he needs to without touching the top there. Moving to the front, Brandon has even more headroom. The seat's a little bit lower in order to give him a better position on the pedals and give him the right position on the cyclic. But this gives him ample headroom even if he was to put on a helmet or in public safety if he has MVG goggles on. He has plenty of room to turn his head side to side, look up, look down at the screens, and not have to worry about contacting that ceiling. Now, it may seem contradictory, but really the best seat in the house is actually that back middle seat. Because those seats are raised up and you don't have any obstruction, the passenger in that back middle seat has the best view where you can see out through the front windscreen as well as both sides, having that big panoramic view. With that being said, Brandon, Lane, you can now get out of the aircraft, and I'm going to talk a little bit about converting the aircraft from a personnel transport mission into a cargo transport mission. The 505 has an innate ability to go quickly from transporting people to transporting cargo, and this is all because of that large open cabin and the ability to quickly remove those seats without any tools. That means no logbook entry. That means no need to get a maintenance personnel in order to quickly convert. In order to show this off, let me hop in the aircraft and pull a seat out for you right now, just to show you how quickly this can happen. Now, without needing a mechanic, without needing anybody, all I can do is hop in here, and I can pull this seat right out without any tools, just like that. Now I'm going to leave it here for 1 second because I want to talk about the back of it. Now the mechanism I just used to pull it out, like I said, no tools. All I do is I pull up on that, and these pins release the seat from the back of the aircraft. Now I'm going to pull this seat out and put it over here. Now we talk about personnel to cargo like it's one or the other, but really this can be anything in between. I've pulled one seat out, and now let's say I'm a private owner. I want to go hiking or biking or skiing. I want to go somewhere where only a helicopter can take me. Well, I still have room for 4 people, and now I can put a bunch of gear in there to take with us. Let me show you what that looks like if I was to put some stuff in there now. Just like that, now we're ready to go. I've got 2 coolers, I got a couple of backpacks, and with those standard tie downs in the Bell 505, I can tie that all down and we're ready to take off. Now let's say that's great for the weekend, but it's Monday again and now I gotta go to work. And I have a cargo carrying mission that's coming up. Well, just as easy as I pulled that one seat, I can pull out these other 2 seats and fill the entire back half of the aircraft with cargo, up to 61 cubic feet, or 22 square feet on the floor. Again, I have tie downs to tie that all down as well. Let me show you what that looks like and just how much stuff we can put in the back of this Bell 505. Now that I've removed all the seats, I can start loading up all this cargo. Now I've got 6 large bins in there. I'm ready to go. All I need to do is tie it down, close my doors, and I'm ready to fly. Now if you want to take this a step further, this will require tools, but you can also pull this front seat out. With 2 simple bolts, you simply pull those out, slide the seat back, pull that front seat out, and now you can install a litter system, both either a medevac interior or a full HEMS interior in a matter of minutes. Pretty amazing what one aircraft can do. The 505 is really the only short-light single on the market today that can have that medevac and that HEMS capability because of this large open cabin. Now I think we've talked a lot about the interior. Let's go to the exterior. The 505 has an external useful load of 2,295 pounds, or 2,000 pounds on the cargo hook. That gives it a great and impressive capability at its weight class. This is because it has a 505 horsepower gas turbine engine from Safran. That is the Arias 2R engine, which is a legacy Arias engine. That engine has over 10 million hours on it, giving it that reliability that operators need in this environment to get up and go every single day. Let's hear from Mark Taylor up at Rocky Mountain Rotors how he's using his 505 to win more business.
Very first flight that I had in a Bell 505, I was pretty impressed. It was incredibly simple. My name is Mark Taylor, co-owner of Rocky Mountain Rotors here in Bozeman, Montana. We primarily operate Bell helicopters as far as our turbine fleet. 505 is very diversified, so we've got a hook on ours, so it's been a great little utility ship. Somebody calls and maybe they're on a budget, they're not trying to break the bank. Well, 505 can lift quite a little bit. We've done multiple high altitude lifts with this machine. 2 winters ago, I was contacted by a research group. And what they're doing is they're trying to date the Teton Range. They think that they're around 15 million years old, which is a relatively young mountain range, I guess. It's a challenging mountain just because of the topography. It's very steep, very, very, very rocky, craggy. The job was to move the group and the cargo on a long line to Delta Lake. Delta Lake sits right about 9,000 feet, 9,100 I think. You go up there when it's frozen still. Our temps were right around 0 C. Job was to haul the net loads and the cargo that they had strapped together up to Delta Lake where the researchers were going to be in there. I did it with a 125-foot long line that day. We were packing 750-pound loads up to 9,100. FADEC does a great job maintaining RPM and keeping the helicopter positioned at a stable RPM, engine and rotor RPM. I like the screen I like being able to zip my eyes across very, very rapidly and see without delay that everything's still, in parameters, and get my eyes back outside where they should be. During that Delta Lake job, just to make sure that we were as light as possible, I did pull the 3 seats out of the back of the helicopter. Even though they don't weigh much, anything is going to count when you're working in those extreme altitudes. We did take the seats out. We took anything that was removable out of the helicopter that could go. You can quickly convert it back to a passenger carrying helicopter in no time to transport the crew. To get that Delta Lake job down there in the Tetons, there was a company out of Salt Lake City that was running an A-Star, and they had put numbers a bid in to get that job. 505 came in less than their A-Star did, and we were able to secure the work.
We've shown a lot about this aircraft from a multi-mission standpoint, from the interior capability of being able to pull out all the different seats, transitioning from a personnel carrier to a cargo carrier, to even a medevac helicopter, and then to a long-lining ship. The 505 is really a truly versatile multi-mission ship. What I want to talk about next is specifically in the public safety market. And to do that, I'm going to move over to our next aircraft and bring in a special guest. Let's go. So we're moving over to our public safety ship, and this is something we're very proud of here on the 505 team. This is a fully equipped Bell 505 public safety demonstrator, and I can't think of anybody better to talk about this aircraft than our customer solutions team member, Terry Miucci. Terry, thank you very much for being here.
You bet, Matt.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do here at Bell?
Sure. So I'm in the customer solutions position, as you mentioned. And as you know, I'm probably one of the newer employees at Bell, and that's because I recently just retired from public safety aviation. My last position, I was an aviation commander for a state agency here in the U.S. One of the things about the 505, I probably not a good thing to say as a new guy at the company, but I originally was kind of a 505 naysayer.
Really,
and,
you don't say.
Yeah, and I might be best if I maybe elaborate on some of that first.
Sure, absolutely. So what do you think, you mentioned you're a public safety naysayer, or a 505 naysayer in the public safety market. What were your thoughts coming from obviously bigger aircraft at your previous position?
Yeah, admittedly, when I first looked at the 505, I didn't give it a good look. I kind of wrote it off. As simple as it sounds, I was flying what I would refer to as a big truck,
Mm-hmm.
like you alluded to, and I kind of thought of the 505 as a little truck, and I did not give it the time that it deserved, so to speak. And it really wasn't until I looked at this aircraft, climbed in the aircraft, flew the aircraft, looked at the performance, saw the price
Mm-hmm.
of the aircraft, and it's a pretty bold statement today, but today I will say I went from that aircraft's not for me, to this is possibly one of the best aircraft that Bell has ever produced.
And so you mentioned price, which I think is a really important characteristic. What
You
else
bet.
about the Bell 505 makes it a really good public safety aircraft?
You bet. So it's 95% of the mission, 50% of the price, and I think you actually coined that phrase. And what I like about that, though, it's really not a marketing phrase. That 95%, we can back that up with data from a mission standpoint, from an aircraft equipment standpoint, and that 50% is Conklin and Deckler. Ironically, I flew this aircraft, or not this aircraft, but the equipment that's on this aircraft. Same identical camera, same mapping system, same spotlight, but yet on a platform that was literally cost twice as much to get into and twice as much to operate.
Perfect, and I think that's
Yeah.
a great segue. So can you talk a little bit about what equipment we do have on this demonstrator? Like I mentioned, this is a Bell-owned asset, and we've bailed assets or equipment from our partners here to actually equip this aircraft to be able to take it around and show off the capabilities of the Bell 505 to the public safety market. Can you talk a little bit about the equipment choice on here and what that equipment does for the public safety operator, how it helps the pilot, how it helps the TFO, and how it helps the guys on the ground?
Yeah, you bet. One of the probably the most critical pieces of equipment on a police helicopter is the camera, the imaging camera. On this particular aircraft is the Westcam MX-10, a very capable camera. It's an IR camera.
Mm-hmm.
This particular camera can have up to 6 different images, sensing images in it, with IR perhaps being one of the most important to allow those policemen to essentially catch bad guys,
Mm-hmm.
is what it comes down to, and to catch them in a way that you typically could not without that type of technology. And I should point out one of the unique things about the 505 is it's not just about the camera. We're not necessarily pushing this MX-10. We're pushing any camera, any police equipment that that operator deems as important to them, whether it's the Westcam brand, a FLIR brand, a Traca brand, a Hurley brand, the universal mounts that are on this camera that make that, that are on this aircraft to make that possible.
Absolutely. I think it's worth mentioning here that this nose mount can carry anything up to a 10-inch ball and 65 pounds. So there really is a lot of great versatility, even outside the public safety market. A shot over M1, we have operators carrying that right now. So there's a lot of different camera models, even outside the public safety market, that this aircraft is capable of carrying. Talking a little bit more about some of the other equipment, we also have a public address speaker and a searchlight on the back. Can you talk a little bit more about what that does for both the people in the aircraft as well as people on the ground?
Yeah, you bet. So a police helicopter, as you know, Matt, it's a presence in the sky, it's a visual presence, and sometimes that presence needs to be extended into an audio presence, just like an officer on the ground, with voice commands. This aircraft with a loud hailer, it's called, a very loud hailer for voice, for siren, for whatever needs to be transmitted over that police scene, if you will. This aircraft's able to do that as well.
Absolutely.
There's a very, what I would call a high-tech police searchlight. There's so much more to police searchlights than just a bright light, and what they're able to do to sync with the camera, to sync with your GPS and those types of things. This aircraft, and at this price point, comes with the latest police technology in that regard.
Great. I think it's worth mentioning one more time that this is the same equipment that was on your bigger aircraft. And realistically, we mentioned the 95% emissions. That 95% a lot of the time is patrolling overhead at what altitude do you think? 800, 1,200 feet, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, that's a real common altitude, and with this equipment, sometimes a little bit higher than that. My position at Bell, all we do is work with public safety, and we have the privilege of traveling around and visiting with nothing but police operators. And one of the things we have discovered or confirmed is about 80% of the public safety operators spend about 80% of their time looking. That's it. Surveillance, reconnaissance, patrol, if you will. This aircraft is more than capable of doing that. That other 20% of the mission, if you will, although the frequency is much less, the criticalness of that is much greater, if you will. Don't count this aircraft out when it comes to those other missions, search and rescue, EMS, aerial use of force, those types of things.
We talked a lot about the great equipment on the external side of the Bell 505 to help with public safety missions. Terry, how about we move inside and talk some about the internal equipment, like the macro blue monitor, the tactical radios, and some of the controls?
Sure.
So we got Terry loaded up in the aircraft now, and we're going to talk about some of the internal equipment on the public safety Bell 505. We've gone ahead and we fired up the avionics and the high definition tactical flight officer display. Terry, can you walk us through some of the equipment on board inside this public safety Bell 505?
You bet, Matt. The first thing I'll mention is the visibility in this aircraft. After 35 years in the parapublic industry, I have never flown an aircraft that has better NVG visibility than this aircraft. Pretty bold statement to make. That visibility in the day, night, and NVG is critically important, as you know, in police aviation. So I'll start with that, but then moving back to that police camera, if you will, that FLIR camera. You can have the best camera in the world, but if you don't have the end image to display, to utilize, to interpret, if you will, it doesn't help you at all. So 505 comes with up to a 17-inch monitor. This one has a macro blue monitor. I should mention this is a bigger monitor than would fit in my so-called big trucks that I used to fly.
Right.
A augmented reality mapping system to overlay onto that becomes critical. This one has a Churchill navigation system. Again, I'll emphasize, whatever the operator needs, Bell can fit that into the 505. But a combination such as this that allows you to take that image now and put your overlays, that allows that tactical flight officer to know the address of every building he's looking at, know the street name of every street he's looking at, or the trail or the ridge line or the coastline, and to turn that into meaningful public safety work is just absolutely imperative, and this aircraft is capable of doing that. Add to that your spotlights, your tactical radios. Again, all that same equipment can easily be installed and custom configured into a 505.
Perfect, and the hand controls are right there, accessible easily for the tactical flight officer?
You bet, absolutely. I don't know if you can see zooming in and out there, but it's an MX-10 camera, and again, no matter what platform you put it on, that camera is going to enhance your public safety ability greatly.
Perfect. And I'd love to talk a little bit about, we've talked about all the equipment, we talked about the aircraft now, but how can Bell help those agencies that are trying to get into a helicopter and start up their own agencies, but may not have the immediate know-how or have the financing right away? How can Bell and the customer solutions team that you're on help those agencies out?
You bet. That's one of the things my team does just that. Bell does a really good job at partnering with the different segment operators to include the public safety operators. As you know, Bell actually fielded the world's first police helicopter 72 years ago, and we've been in that partnership, if you will, ever since. Bell offers today, through its Textron, an internal package called the municipal bond lease. It's not quite as it sounds. It's essentially a tool that's only available to government operators. It's based on a government's credit rating or bond rating, if you will, but it allows that operator to get into aviation or to upgrade their aviation at a very, very affordable price. One of the things as we visit with police operators around the world, I'm always amazed that they have similarities. Of course, they're all in business to enhance public safety first and foremost, but there's the challenges of economic and there's the challenges of political. Well, this tool, this municipal bond lease, addresses both of those. Typically, an operator has to reach out to a city council, a county board of supervisors, a state legislature for millions of dollars in a procurement. This municipal bond lease, I've seen rates as low as close to 1%. Again, only available to government operators to address this current downturn. And I won't go into the detail of that other than an operator really needs to look at that program. And my team, Bell, can help look at those specifics of that.
And not just the acquisition that amount of the aircraft, but how about the operating costs? Is that going to lead to more flight hours, more availability for that agency?
You bet. We kind of mentioned that 95% of the mission, 50% of the cost. So what does that actually mean? As a government operator, we're not looking to put more money back in our pocket. So what does a direct operating cost that's 50% of normal platforms mean? It means more flight hours. It means more officers getting support from the air to create greater public safety. And a lower cost of acquisition means there's departments out there that are now getting into police aviation that perhaps could not afford that before, and they're now able to do that. Why is that so important well, it's obviously important because of our economic downturn and our political climate, if you will, around these police agencies right now. So again, Bell is partnered with these agencies in providing these tools, not just the technology, but the tools to combat their challenges that they're facing today.
And how about for established units that are coming out of maybe surplus military gear or older airframes? What's the benefits the 505 could bring to some of these operators that are flying older aircraft? Is there comfort? Is there something that with the operator spending so much time in there? What do you see as the benefits of being in a newer platform?
Yeah, all of the above. In all of aviation, we talk about safety first. There's many aspects of how we accomplish that. One is technology. That today's technology that you have in the 505, a truly integrated glass cockpit that is not available in other platforms. It's not available in those older surplus aircraft. The safety technologies, the mission capabilities, the cameras today are not like they used to be before. And things all the way down to comfort, like you said, are all present and available with this aircraft.
That's perfect. And I think even we've talked a lot about the patrol mission, but even from the search and the rescue mission, we showed how you can take the seats out. We've seen operators both on the public safety side and the government side as well as the private side pulling those seats out and putting dog teams or divers on the back. Is that just an extra capability that some other aircraft may not have in the same kind of weight class?
Absolutely. Those missions are critically important, and although those missions are not done every day, like a patrol, they're still critically important. And to that point, don't write those missions off with this aircraft is more than capable of doing that. We have one operator that's looking at an initial TAC fire mission, up to 160 gallons of water with a properly configured aircraft. That's unheard of in a class in this, or an aircraft in this class. So this aircraft more than capable of fulfilling that full public safety mission spectrum.
That's fantastic. Any parting thoughts before we get you out of there?
You bet. Take the time to look at this aircraft is what I would say. Don't make that mistake I made. It might look like a little truck. It's not a little truck in performance at all. And it's a very, very mission capable aircraft.
Terry, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an absolute wealth of knowledge. If you want to get in touch with Terry, or if you want to see some more information about the Public Safety Bell 505, please feel free to reach out to us. Terry's main mission here is to travel around and meet with public safety agencies, go to APSA meetings, and help public safety operators like yourself get into new technology, and not just the Bell 505, the 407, the 429, the 412, or even the 525. Terry is available to help everybody out there and their public safety mission in protecting their cities. So thank you so much. We look forward to talking to you soon.